Cold weather travel. Are we into it or over it? In this episode of Ladies Who Travel, Melissa and I share our frosty travel stories, tips for staying warm, and whether winter wonderlands are worth the chill.
Welcome to the Global Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is founder of the Global Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy is joined by expert guests as she takes you on a journey to destinations around the world, sharing travel inspiration, itinerary ideas, and practical tips to help you plan your next adventure. Join us as we explore everywhere from bustling cities to remote landscapes, uncover cultural treasures, and discover the best ways to make your travel dreams a reality.
Hi and welcome back to Ladies Who Travel, the monthly segment on the Global Travel Planning podcast with myself and Melissa. Now this month, Melissa and I are sharing our experiences with cold weather travel. From snowy city breaks to upcoming adventures, hello Antarctica, we're talking about the good, the bad and the freezing. We'll cover where we've loved travelling in winter, the times it didn't go to plan, what we packed to stay warm, and how to know if winter travel is right for you. Hello, Melissa. It's great to have you here again for a Ladies Who Travel episode on the Global Travel Planning podcast. This episode, we're kind of focusing on, we're talking about cold weather travel, which is really pertinent because by the time this episode actually airs in November, both you and I will be in Antarctica.
How exciting. I can't believe it's still Antarctica.
I know, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So I thought, well, this would be a great episode to talk about cold weather travel since we're going somewhere pretty cold. So we're going to talk about kind of the good and the bad and our packing tips and all sorts of things that we've experienced when it comes to cold weather travel. And we'd love to hear from you guys. So don't forget, you can contact us via SpeakPipe if you've got something you'd like to comment on in this episode, and we can give you a shout out in a future episode. And we've been getting some great messages, so keep those going. It's great to hear from you. So let's have a little chat about kind of, I guess, our own experiences of cold weather. Now, I grew up in a slightly colder climate than you, Melissa, because you grew up in Queensland and I grew up in the UK up until my teenage years anyway, which is in the northeast of the UK as well, which is pretty chilly. So we both had a kind of a different experiences of cold. But do you have any places that you just love to visit in winter, Melissa?
Yeah, like you said, I don't have a lot of experience with cold weather travel, but I have been to Europe during Christmas, and I also have been to the UK in January. So they were on two separate trips, and I know a lot of people at the time thought I was a little bit mad by taking the family over at that time. But we had a great time. On both of those trips. It was cold, but you prepare and you you make sure that you're well dressed. I think, yeah, it's like, what do they say? Isn't there a thing saying there's no such thing as bad weather, only, I don't know.
Oh, it's something like there's no such thing as bad weather, just poor packing or poor whatever you're dressed in. I don't know the actual phrase, but it's something like that. It's like if the better you prepared you are, the better you are to deal with it. And we know that getting prepared for Antarctica in terms of what we have in a packing list.
Yeah.
I must admit, I suppose I've spent a lot of time in my life in those winter northern hemisphere. I lived in a French ski resort. I lived in Canada for a bit, which was colder than anything I experienced in France. And then in the UK, the winters are kind of different. They're a bit grayer and a bit damper and a bit not my favourite, I have to say. Though I do really love London at Christmas, which I think everybody in my UK travel planner podcasting group would know because I constantly go on about how much I love the Christmas decorations. So how did you find it? I guess that first trip to Europe in winter, did that surprise you? Was it what you expected?
It did actually. I remember us getting off the plane, and of course, that means leaving Brisbane in the middle of summer where it's really hot. And I remember getting off the plane and we were prepared, like we had in our backpacks warm clothes to change in, but I just remember us all just being, oh my gosh, it's so cold. So we flew into Berlin, and the first day out and about traveling in Berlin, my daughter, who must have been about 7 or something at the time. She just was like, "Mum, we have to go home. It's too cold."
That's so funny.
It's
And I
like,
guess that would have been her first time that she didn't
yeah,
experience anything as cold as that.
like I've been cold, like, oh yeah, I have to put a jumper or a sweater on, depending on where you're from. But like, my face was cold. I've never experienced having a cold face, like, yeah, that was just crazy. It was really crazy. And so I was surprised, and the first day was a lot, but it really felt like our bodies kind of adjusted, because I don't remember ever feeling that cold any other days, just that first day. So I think we just got a shock, and yeah, we kind of then just lent into it, and yeah, it was okay.
I think honestly it's a bigger shock when you're coming from the southern hemisphere where it's hot, and then all of a sudden. And I used to do that as a child. I used to not as a child, as a teenager, get off the plane. Where I'd been in southern Africa, where it was summer, and I'd get off, and I used to spend a lot of the kind of December, January when I was off university in the UK, and the plane door would open. You'd come to go down the steps at that point, because we're talking the 80s, and it would be just that cold would hit you, and you'd be like, oh my goodness. It was like completely different, and a little bit grayer as well, and just completely different. So is there? Because I guess in the winter travel, I've been mainly kind of Europe. Actually went to Japan, what would be classed, I guess, as the winter, and it was warmer than I expected. So that was quite interesting. And obviously in Australia, we do get winters. So, but I guess Tasmania would be the place that would go if we wanted that kind of cold weather here. And obviously we've got New Zealand where people go skiing, don't they, in the winter period? But it's just the opposite time of year. So I guess if you're living in the Northern Hemisphere, that would not be over the December, January period. That's going to be kind of the June, July period, because obviously we're the opposite way around. But is there anywhere in particular you'd recommend people should go for their first winter trip if they're kind of not used to living in a country with such cold weather?
Well, I really loved going to Europe for Christmas. So we went in December, and it was amazing. And I guess especially having my young daughter with us, just for seeing, going to Christmas markets and seeing the snow. We spent Christmas Day. We were in Austria at that stage, and we spent it going down skiing and going down on a sled, and it was just so much fun. So that was and just seeing all the beautiful lights. Probably similar to you. Then we on a separate trip, we went to the UK in January, and there was probably not anything so fun about that trip. I mean, we had a great time, don't get me wrong, but the weather, there was nothing that the weather brought that I recommended. So
January, Melissa. That's, I guess, January, February are always kind of that kind of low season for the UK, where it's the long days and the weather isn't as good, and you haven't got the Christmas kind of decorations and stuff, which kind of impact it. But I guess that was part of our motivation when we've been talking about Tours for ladies who travel, was the Christmas market, kind of that Christmas river cruise, because I just think it would be absolutely magical. And we've had so many people ask us about doing something like that, and I can't think of anything more magical than a river cruise in Europe in December.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. And you just get up in a different place each day, different Christmas market.
Oh, fantastic. And I just love the Christmas markets. That's what Doug and I spent December last year traveling around Europe to the Christmas market. So I am up for that at any time, because they're just amazing. They're just, especially the German Christmas markets are on a different level.
Yeah, they are the best. But part of that trip as well, when we went to Europe, we also spent a lot of time in Switzerland, and that was lovely. That was just such a lovely time, seeing the snow, especially a family from Australia, seeing that kind of landscape. It was just beautiful, and I'd highly recommend it for people. You just got it. Yes, it's cold, but you just come prepared. And yes, people are saying, oh, but the days will be shorter and all that. And yes, it's all of that. But yeah, we still had a wonderful time.
It's so beautiful, and it's such an experience. I can't think of anything better than being rugged up. They'll use an Australian term, being kind of snuggled up and round a roaring fire and the Christmas decorations up. It really is. It's kind of one of those Christmas movies. It really is that amazing. and that's fantastic. So obviously we're going to Antarctica soon. When this podcast comes out, we will be in Antarctica. So we will be sharing pictures and videos on our Instagram channel. So do take a check out. I'll put a link to that as well in the show notes. But have you got any destinations on your bucket list that are kind of, winter travel?
Yeah, I do. One of the big ones that as a family we've always had on our bucket list, which we haven't done yet, is to go to New York City for Christmas. So experience that kind of Christmas over there. We think that would be really lovely. We love musicals, so to see like the Rockettes and the Rockefeller Christmas tree and ice skating, that kind of thing is something we'd really like to do. I'd also, this is a fairly new one to me, but I've been booking a few clients in recently, like Christmas in like Lapland and seeing Santa and stuff. And I was like, oh, that sounds fun. So yeah, that's something else I wouldn't mind doing now. What about you?
That's incredibly popular. Actually, we were in Finland in December. We didn't go up to the Arctic Circle, but we saw at the airport so many families heading up there. And I was like, I really want to do that. I'm kind of going to wait for grandkids, and then that's a big treat that I'm going to do for sure. For me, I've always wanted to go to Churchill in Canada to see the polar bears.
Yes.
So that is really, really high on my winter bucket list, because I just can't. I really want to do it, and I know obviously with global warming and the impact that things are changing there, and I just think it's one of those places. If you want to go and see it, we've got to go and do it fairly soon, unfortunately. Yeah. But yeah, that's somewhere that I'd really want to go to. Now, in terms of the winter experiences that you have had, do you have a particular day that you kind of always sticks in your memory as a really magical experience?
I really do, and I've talked about this on the podcast before. So I think on my stamped episode with you, and that was when we were in Prague, and it was Christmas time in Prague, and we were having breakfast in our hotel, and it just started slightly snowing, just very, very small amount. And my daughter, I'd never seen it like snow fall from the sky at this point, but my daughter had never seen snow at all, and she just raced out in the clothes that she had on and just started putting her hands out and opening up her mouth, and she was just beside, it was like a weekday. So there's people walking past going to work, and I just thought, what are these people thinking about this little Aussie girl out there? But I ran out too, and the whole day the snow just kept going and going and going, and my daughter just kept picking up the snow and had this big snowball that she was carrying around, and she just wouldn't let go of it because it was I guess she'd never seen snow, and she was holding on to that snowball with dear life. So it was just wonderful. Like, I loved it. I felt like a little girl seeing all that as well, but seeing it through my daughter's eyes was just really magical. And when those memories come up on Facebook, they just make me smile ear to ear still. So that was probably one of my favorite winter travel days.
That is lovely. It's funny when you kind of think back on your memories, what things stand out. I actually, in my 20s, I worked as a nanny, and I worked for actually a Swiss family, but the lady lived in London. And we went over to Switzerland for Christmas, and we all went out as a family with our parents as well, to this restaurant somewhere in the obviously Swiss Alps. And it was amazing. It was like a barn, and on the other side of the barn there were donkeys and sheep, obviously with like a glass panel between us. And it was just the most magical place. It was just before Christmas, and there was snow, obviously snow everywhere, Christmas decorations up, and then this amazing food. I love Swiss food, but this fantastic restaurant, and it was something out of like a fairy tale. It was just, and it always sticks in my memory, and I just thought it was fantastic, really good. It was really, really good. Now we did talk a little bit, I guess, about the cold and like I guess planning for it as well. Is there any time where you've kind of underestimated it or it's impacted your plans?
Only so when I was talking about that first day in Berlin, and my daughter said how cold, she kept saying she was really cold. And, we bought some clothing here in Australia, but I think when we got over there, I just kind of realised that maybe we hadn't bought the right kind of clothing. I don't know if it's even that accessible sometimes here in Australia. So we did buy her a different jacket while we were over there. And the thing that I noticed, and this is probably a good tip for any Aussies going over there, is the good the clothing is so much cheaper over there. I think maybe because there's more of it. Whereas I think we picked up a jacket for my daughter for, I don't know, like $20-30 Australian, where we're probably looking at $100 or $200 here. So I guess just trying to be prepared, but we were obviously underestimated a bit then. So being prepared. Like even so going to Antarctica, I was in New Zealand a couple of months ago and I thought, oh, this is probably a good place to buy some clothing for the Antarctica trip, because it's just not that common here where I live. Well, we don't have snow here or anything. So, and it was just so luckily there was some sales on, so I picked up some really good gear while I was over there. So just maybe thinking ahead. We have to think ahead, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I must admit, because we were Doug and I were in Sweden and Finland and Poland and Hungary last December. So I do find the Uniqlo stuff really good that we can get in Australia. So that is really good and really like thin as well, but really warm. But I must admit, I have stocked up on a lot of thermal gear from Marks and Spencers, which I'd bought when I was in the UK. But is there something about winter travel that you kind of love? I know I'm kind of pivoting back, I suppose, to the things we've done, but is there something, like for me, it's that coziness and the magicalness of it, particularly, I guess, and when a minute I think about it, I just imagine London at Christmas, because I just think it's such a magical place, or the German Christmas markets, and eating so much of the delicious food that was there, that I just really like. And I guess that the days are shorter, but it's just cozier and it's more indoors. So it's a different kind of experience of a trip. So you're going to be spending more time indoors. So where you stay is probably more important. Like have, where you're going to go and eat is kind of important, because you can have, some really fabulous food and some lovely, fantastic restaurants where you're not kind of on the go wanting to be outside all the time. But is there something that you particularly loved about traveling in the cold?
When I saw that you asked this question, because you said secret, I was thinking, it was something I can't be open about. So I actually noted down that I like not having to wash my clothes so much.
Such a good one.
Because you're not sweating, and you know what, like no one's really seeing a lot of the clothes, because if they're the bottom layers, they're kind of hidden away anyway. So it's the one thing I do like about winter travel, is that you have to take kind of more warm clothes, but also in some aspect you're taking less outfits, because you can wear a lot of it just over and over again.
And that's absolutely true. That is spot on. I didn't even think about that, but now you mentioned absolutely, in terms of what I took last year. I took a very small pull along around Europe, because I just needed, I think I had like one pair of jeans and a pair of tracksuit bottoms, and that was about it, and then lots of different tops. But yeah, you can wear the same things quite a few days without having to worry about it, whereas when you're going somewhere hot after you go like Vietnam, and after 3 hours you're completely drenched, and you're going to get you have to go and change your clothes. So that is absolutely true, which I guess kind of works really well, kind of pivoting into that packing thing about what do you pack to keep you warm, and any gear or things that you kind of swear by. I mean, I've got a few things that I definitely always take now. But is there anything that you kind of think, well, I'm going to make sure that I have those with me?
Well, I'm not going to lie, I do struggle for cold weather packing, probably because I don't come from a cold weather place. So I do struggle a lot, and I probably think about it a lot more. But one of my favourite bits of clothing for cold weather packing is my puffer jacket, because it's like you sort of saying, like it folds down really small, so it keeps you really warm. So that's probably like one of my favorite. And I invested a couple of $100 in that. And I think that was well worth it. So yeah, definitely my puffer jacket is my favorite thing to take. And I've just really learnt the importance of good quality layering. I still struggle, and I know I'm going to struggle packing for the Antarctica, but I just try really hard to think about the layers, like, 3 kind of layers.
Absolutely, it's the layering, and I mean, when you go to countries like, you could be in London, for example, where you've layered, which you need to do to keep yourself warm, but also then you go into a shop where it's like 6 million degrees, and you
Yes.
start sweating. So you need to be able to. So I always say, like, if somebody's like somewhere, one of the countries where you're going to be maybe going into department stores, or you're going to be shopping, to have a bag with you so you can strip off those layers.
Yes.
I mean, because I remember shopping with Dominique on Oxford Street this one time and absolutely dripping with sweat because I was really well dressed, but then just got overheated, which can also be kind of a problem. But layers, absolutely. Make sure you've got your layers. I swear by, I've got thermal tights. I love my thermal tights, and they go under everything because I hate it when my feet and my hands get cold.
Yeah.
But my favorite investment over the last few years have been hand warmers. Oh my goodness, they are absolutely a game changer. When I was in Puglia last November, and it was cold, I would just have the hand warmers in the bed and keep me warm because they stay warm for like 24 hours, and they're not big, so I'll be taking some of those to Antarctica. That's for sure.
Someone just gave me a whole bunch that they didn't need anymore. So I'm like, oh, great, thank you.
Oh, quid's in. I've had to go and buy some. But they are, honestly, they're worth the weight in gold. And honestly, I think the other thing I would say is protect your extremities. So make sure your hands are warm. Make sure your head's warm. Because if you can keep your head warm and your hands and your feet warm, then the rest of you tends to be not too bad. So that would always, I guess, be my tip as well. And I know we've got to have like waterproof layers as well for Antarctica. So that's where I guess jeans can be a problem, because I did travel around Europe last year in jeans. So, if they do get wet, and I know people used to go skiing in jeans, which was always kind of frowned upon. I used to live in a ski resort because once they get wet, they stay wet for days. So it's making sure that if you do, like I had took jeans last year when I was traveling around Europe, is that you just have you have a spare pair or something spare as well, so that you can keep yourself nice and warm, for sure. So how about preparing mentally for a cold trip? Because, if you're used to warm weather, which I'm hoping to get used to warm weather, I'm in Perth at the moment and it doesn't seem to be ever getting warm. So sorry, people in WA or Perth and down, I really want to have some warm weather. I know it's hot in the minute in Queensland. So I'm kind of, I think I've got used to the cold now, so I don't think I'm going to have to do any mental preparation for Antarctica. And I guess I used to do it as a kid because I used to flip between the southern and northern hemispheres all the time. I used to embrace the difference. I used to love that, the plane door would open and you'd be like, oh, that's cold, or that's hot when I used to get back home. But how do you mentally prepare for that, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I guess the main thing about, like we keep saying, is to be able to keep warm. So as long as you've got the right gear, I think that you should be okay. And also, and focusing on, like we keep talking about, the fun stuff that comes with going to cold weather climates. That if it was warm, you wouldn't get to do that. I mean, so in Antarctica, if it was warm, there would be no amazing icebergs or penguins or anything like that. So just, thinking about all the really cool stuff that comes with that cold weather.
I do too. And then they also think about it, because nobody's forcing us to go to these cold climates. No. But I always think, but when I come back, it'll be hot.
Yes.
And I used to think that when I used to go back to the UK over the December, January period, I used to think, but I'll be going back to university at the end of January and I'll be hot. So I don't have to have it forever. Though I guess if you're going from one cold climate to another, it's just, it's just going to be different. So embrace all of the fun things that you're going to do, whether that's skiing, whether that's Christmas markets, whether that's a river cruise, whether that's going to see particular wildlife, or like go to Antarctica like we are doing. I guess that's the thing. Now, I often get asked about itineraries for cold weather, and I guess this will be an interesting one for both of us to answer, actually, because obviously I do a lot of itineraries with Doug for the UK and Europe, and so that we have to look at people's itineraries if they're looking at December, January, February, particularly if they're going up to far north of Scotland, for example, where the weather will impact and can have an impact on public transport, impact on driving, shorter days, things are shut because it's low season. But just thinking about actually anybody planning to come to Australia in the winter months, which for us are kind of the June, July, August, do you think that has an impact on itineraries here? I guess it depends where they go in Australia.
It does depend on where you're going, and I mean, a bit opposite to kind of what we're talking about. But the good thing in Australia is, we have so many super hot destinations that you can really only visit them in the winter. Particularly like, in the outback, outback Queensland, for example, only really operates in the cooler months. So you would have to plan to come in winter for those times. Like you wouldn't go in December, which is our peak, in the middle of summer. So they're not cold destinations, but they are good winter destinations.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. I guess they're cooler than they would be in the summer, but far more accessible. And as I always say, when people ask me about the travels that I've done in Australia, my three favorite destinations actually. One is Uluru, the second is Queensland Outback road trip, and the third is Tasmania, and they're all fantastic in the winter. So all accessible. So and I think that's what we often get asked when people come to Australia, that they're going to come for a few weeks, and often people say, "Oh, I'm going to visit January, February. I'm going to go up to Cairns." And I'm like, probably not the time really you want to be going up there, because you've got it's too hot, it's too humid. But go in June, July, August, and you're going to have a completely different experience. That's for sure. So thinking about, if anybody listening to the podcast has not traveled in winter, as in, I guess we're talking that kind of European-y, kind of snowy winter weather, is there any advice that you would give anybody who might be considering that, but they kind of haven't experienced that kind of cold weather before?
I think, it comes again to being prepared, doing your research, so good quality clothing. And so think about the clothing you're going to wear, not just the week before you go, but, if you're planning the trip a year in advance, start thinking about it straight away. So when some deals come up, or you might have to order something online, just so you've got time to prepare. And also just, like for me, where I come from, the daylight is not really much of a difference between the summer and the winter, but it does make a huge difference, in Europe and the UK, for example. And so you have to factor in that you're not probably going to get as much sightseeing done as you would normally do. So you might not get everything done. Plus, a lot of things close. I know when we were traveling around the UK in January, a lot of things that I had on my list, they actually won't even open in January. I guess it's not a peak season. So, so planning,
research,
being prepared, doing your research.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm going to throw one in there as well. Think very much ahead about your footwear, because it can get very, very slippery. So that's something I've got a very comfortable pair of kind of walking boots, fur-lined walking boots, which are with a good grip, because honestly, sometimes you don't realise just how slippery it can be on those pavements when you've got that black ice, so you can't see it. So I think embrace the difference, prepare for the difference, and come on a river cruise with us next year.
How amazing it's going to be when we, like you said, snuggly, cozy inside with a nice warm cuppa or a glass of wine.
Some blue vine. Yes, some mulled wine, some glue vine. Yes. I just love it. Absolutely love it. Well, I guess, as I say, when this episode comes out, we'll be in Antarctica. And when we come back from Antarctica, we'll be doing an episode all about that, because I know for many people, that is a huge bucket list destination. And I feel very privileged and very lucky to be going. What are you most excited about, Melissa?
I'm most excited about wildlife. Yeah, when we attended that, like an information night about the trip, and the lady was sort of telling us about the whales outside her cabin, and that she was having a cuppa watching whales and the penguins. And I've heard people saying stories like, that the penguins are like there's so many penguins, like they're in your way almost. And I'm like, I want penguins in my way.
That is going to be so cool. I have to say, what I'm looking forward to is just the size of those icebergs.
Yes.
Because you've just feel so small. Yeah, and how many of them there are. And I just think, I've been told it's a life-changing experience to go there.
Okay.
So I guess we can answer that question in December. How it has impacted us. And I'm also, I've never been on a cruise at all. So I'm actually kind of looking forward to the experience of being on the boat. We're on the boat for 2 weeks.
And, I've never been on a cruise that long. I'm actually looking forward to being stuck on a boat and not being able to do anything because, like Tracy, you and I, like we fit a lot into our schedules. So it'll be nice to actually make use of some of the relaxing facilities on the boat as well.
Yeah, so we'll be reporting back on that, so you can find out all about the cruise that we're doing and what it's like. And we'll be taking pictures, we're doing videos. As I say, we'll be doing a podcast all about it. So if Antarctica is on your bucket list of destinations, we can share exactly, and you can follow along and see what our experience is like. I'm very excited about it. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah.
If anyone's interested, we can even help them book their own trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right. So I guess that kind of wraps up, bit of a pun, cold weather.
Very funny.
I know. Oh dear, I'm full of it, honestly. I will put links in the show notes to some of the products we've talked about, actually. And I have just published a London in winter packing list. Actually could do with doing one for Europe, a European packing list, to be honest, because I know when we've talked that if you're not used to it, it can actually be quite difficult to think about what you need to take. And I must admit, it's been quite useful looking at the Antarctica packing list and going through and saying, right, okay, I need to make sure I've got those things. I do find packing lists really helpful.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we need to put together. Now, that's going to be it for Ladies Who Travel for November. In December, we'll both be back to talk about the Antarctica trip, and we will be back at the very end, the very last episode of 2025. Melissa and I will be sharing our top 3 destinations and experiences for 2025 as well. And also we kind of sharing what is be happening with Ladies Who Travel, the Facebook group, and tours for 2026 as well. So do tune in for that. But as always, Melissa, it's always great to chat. So thanks again for coming on this episode.
Thanks for having me again, Tracy.
Well, I'm looking forward to spending a few weeks in Antarctica with you.
That's right. There'll be lots of talking for 2 weeks, Tracy. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, thanks again, Melissa.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Global Travel Planning Podcast. For more details and links to everything we discussed today, check out the show notes at globaltravelplanning.com. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a review on your favourite podcast app because your feedback helps us reach more travel enthusiasts just like you. Anyway, that leaves me to say, as always, happy global travel planning.